Welcome to Winning on Wednesday. My name is Juan Vides, and the purpose we're here is to simply get to know each other. I always say people do business who they know, like, and trust. Speaking of knowing, like, and trusting, I'd like to introduce my co-host today. It's Rich Byer. Rich, how are you?
Good morning, everybody. Rich Byer, speaking to you live from New York City. I'm a brand designer. I help companies with the face of their company so that when you Google them or when you look up their website, you see something that looks powerful, impactful. And I send my clients out to the streets as the three Ps, a polished professional presence. Rich Byer, keeper of the brand.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And today we're going to have a special wow because there was a little bit of a hiccup, as I mentioned earlier today. So normally we have every month we have a meeting at 10:04, which is at 10 a.m. and we have a 10-minute presenter. And we have a brand new member. I want to introduce our brand new member, and Jeff Kothe. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. Everybody, let me ask you a question. Are you like me? Are you just a little bit disappointed in how I turned out? Now, I want you to see what I did there. I used humor and nobody got offended. Self-deprecating humor is one type of humor that is okay to use in business, in the business world, if done properly. And that's what I'm all about. I'm trying to make sure that humor comes back into business. And when I say back, why do I say back into business? I remember a day when no one worried about HR or getting fired for telling a joke, that kind of thing. But cancel culture has run amok on social media with all the they're called Karens and Chads apparently. Getting offended on behalf of others does not need to be around. Anonymity has made people very brave, and the look at me age is getting out of control. And yes, I realize the irony that I am part of that very problem right now by giving this talk. But I think humor needs to be back in the workplace for many reasons that most people don't think about or even care enough about to do something about. If you're not sure what I mean, if you've ever had somebody read their PowerPoint slides to you, do you remember any of that part of that presentation that was humorous? Is any part of it was something that was memorable? You probably forgot it immediately because you got to read the slides 3 times before they read it because you can read faster than they can talk. Anyway, why is this important? Humor in business is important for probably the biggest reason that people don't realize. 80% of sales are made between the fifth and the 12th touch. If you give your presentation and they tell you they need to think about it, and you know in your gut that they won't remember your offer or likely even your name past dinner time, what chance do you have of getting that fifth, sixth, or 12th touch if you can't even get to number two? If you're memorable, your odds increase tremendously. And who doesn't want a piece of that 80% of the sales, right? So let me give you an example of some of the things that I do or have thought of to be able to do, depends on how they apply, that you can get to be memorable. Most people that have seen me in other networking events, when someone says, "Hey, Jeff, how you doing?" My answer is never, "I'm fine, how are you?" And yes, I say it with the same voice and the same face all the time. I don't say, "I'm fine, how are you?" I say, "I am awesome, but I am improving," because it's what I call the scratch the record uh, type of event where it grabs their attention. They weren't expecting it. I had one lady say, "Well, what's better than awesome?" And I just came up with, I said, "It's phantasmagorical." I don't know if that's a word, but I do know that she remembered our conversation. Keep in mind that adding humor to your business doesn't mean you start your presentation with a knock knock joke or a priest and a rabbi walk into a bar, or for Pete's sake, there was a man from Nantucket. Leave that away, okay? Maybe you put in some wordplay into your presentation. Maybe you bring something up that a client told you that you thought was funny and they will think is funny. It makes it more memorable. Plus, they now know you have at least one other client, right? So they can belong to the group. I was doing a health application. This is over 30 years ago, but I still use the story. Over 30 years ago, I had a health application for a husband and wife, and the wife said, "He knows all my health history. I'm going to go into the kitchen." And she did. And while we were filling it out, I had a question. Has she had anything in her health major in the last 5 years? Any surgeries or anything like that? He looked me square in the eye and said, well, yeah, she had a vasectomy. Now, you may see the problem there. I could have said, wow, that must have been painful. But instead of that, I just corrected him and said, oh, by the way, it was a hysterectomy is what you meant, right? But that story not only brings a little humor, it helps the people in the future go, oh, okay, it's not that big a deal. I can make mistakes and it'll probably be caught and so forth. It works that way. Anyway, some reasons that you want to include humor. If you're leadership, you're seen as more approachable. You're seen, if you show a sense of humor, they feel like they can relate to you easily. Maybe you say things like, hey, we need ads so catchy our competition uses them. Or maybe you start a meeting with, well, how many people are just here for the donuts and pizza? Okay. There will be some people who will admit to it. Maybe you just use a funny background for your Zoom meeting, or add memes to your weekly newsletter, or tell people this month's goal is just to survive to next month. If you're in sales and you need to give some kind of a follow-up email, maybe you say, hey, there's 3 options. One of them has to be true. 1, you haven't responded because you're too busy. 2, you're just so busy you haven't figured out how to tell me you're not interested. Or maybe 3, you've been abducted by aliens and the whole probing thing caught you off guard. It gets their attention and it makes them realize that you're paying attention to them with something other than, hey, you haven't bought yet. Do you want to buy today? Because that's what most follow-up emails sound like. Maybe you want to do some role playing with your sales folks and do something ridiculous. Have somebody role play a ridiculous client, because sometimes it brings out ideas for other ways to talk to people. For example, have one of your people role play, hey, I'm a penguin. Why do you think I need this ice you're trying to sell me? Wait a minute, what? Okay, so employees that are allowed to use humor are given a free rein to think outside the box. They tend to be more creative. They also tend to be problem solvers. So you might role play this, and kidding, obviously, but say something like, well, there's only 2 kinds of people who won't buy from me: the people who don't have any money and the ones too stupid to understand it. And seems like you're doing okay. And then run, right? Get out of their way because they're coming after you. But it's something that makes you think outside the box. Managers, you get a new hire, start giving a prize to the new employee who actually shows up on day 2. Make a big deal out of it. Might cause productivity, survive day 1, anything like that to make the new person feel like, okay, these people are relatable. Maybe you announce Friday's fire drill as the loudest rock concert you never bought a ticket to. Maybe you introduce the break room as the room where all the good ideas come from. Humor tends to increase energy levels. It encourages open, honest communication. It reduces stress and burnout. It builds resilience and mental toughness because you're laughing at your own problems. It aids in team building, camaraderie. It promotes emotional healing and confidence. There's a lot of reasons that you should add humor back into the business. But I want to talk about just a couple of minutes here on something else that I think most businesses forget about. I want to talk to you about something called market dominating position, or MDP, or value proposition, elevator pitch. They're all the same thing. What makes your company better and different? And I put the emphasis on and. It has to be both. One or the other is not good enough. If you don't know what makes you better and different, your prospective client has no possibility of knowing either. Once you establish why you are better and different, you can charge anything you want for your service and products. They can stop shopping because you solved their problem. What you've created is onlyness. You are the only game in town. I am blown away by how many businesses do not know their market dominating position. And by the way, I take the time to really get to know my clients. The BS meter goes way up. Everybody expects that. That is not a market dominating position. Okay. Put some time into developing your MDP. It will pay huge dividends in the end. So back to the humor side of this. I'm going to switch to my other background. I'm developing a podcast, a comedy podcast. It's called Undeterred, but which is based on my favorite word in the English language. But you see, from my background, it's not one word, it's two. And I started this idea with a cancel culture problem I mentioned earlier. I thought it might be interesting to get into the minds of funny people to take a look at their process of building humor, the writing, the editing, the delivery, the improv, the crowd work, etc. My hope is to help people learn how to properly build and use their humor to their advantage. I use humor in about every contact I make, whether it's a client, a salesperson who calls on me, a friend, a stranger. I make it a challenge. I want to see how long it takes to get a complete stranger to laugh. I challenge you to try to make at least one person laugh or at least smile today because it may change their day, but it may change your life. It did mine. One last note about humor. Humor attracts top talent to your business as well. Think about it. Nobody wants to work at a cemetery with a Wi-Fi. I think I have about 10 seconds left, so I'll open it up for questions. I'm just
Yes.
kidding.
But thank you, Jeff. That was wonderful. And wow, wow. A lot of great information to take. But with that said, uh, we're going to open up the questions. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? We have a
Oh,
good Jill. How are you, Jill?
I was just kidding about. Oh no, I've got people with their hands up.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, yep,
I'm
yep.
kidding. Go ahead.
We're not. Go
Who I
ahead.
didn't
Go-
who's
So somebody had Jim, did you have your hand up, by the way, Jim? Yeah, Jim. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. I see that Rich also has his hand up. Did using comedy ever go south?
Good
That's
question.
an interesting question. For me, it hasn't. It almost did once, but I'm really good at improv. I have done professional stand-up comedy, so I'm very much a wordsmith. And I usually am very quick at thinking what I'm going to say before it spews out of my mouth, before I verbally vomit nastiness on somebody. But most of the time, if you build it correctly, it should never go south. You never say something about somebody else, say it about you, but you don't. For instance, if I owned a company and had 50 employees, I don't go in there and say our company sucks because those other people are helping my company be what it is. So the answer is you certainly could be, but that's what I want to do is help people so they don't ever have that problem.
Thanks.
Exactly. Next, we go to Rich. You have a question, and then we'll go to Joe's.
Well, it's less of a question than I just want to say I've known Jeff for probably longer than some of the rest of the people in the room, and I've been listening to you, Jeff, develop this what you're doing now, but yet I've never heard a whole presentation. I've been hearing pieces, and I just need to tell you that what you've put together as this presentation was flawless. And I just commend the work that you've done,
We
and I say rock on, man. That you've done so much in such a short amount of time.
I appreciate that, especially since I had forgotten that Juan asked me to do this until 9:30 last night when I wrote this.
Okay. You
So
did
you talk
wonderful.
about in a short time.
And
Yeah,
you know,
Well,
I
and
know
it,
the stuff.
I always say that pressure creates diamonds.
oh
So
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. I like
And
that one.
gallstones, but that's another story.
I like.
that's called Spilkes.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Joseph, we got your question. So you gotta bat it off to Joseph. So you're up, Joseph.
It's actually an observation and then a request. Jeff, you present very well. I love your mantra. I'll say it like that. But please put into the chat section your contact information so we can get back to you.
I will absolutely do that. I haven't done it yet because I'd have to open another screen, and I was using my cheat screen for all my
And
notes for the talk that I just gave. So
and
yeah,
Fair enough.
it'll
and
be
it,
up there in a moment.
by the way, I also did put his contact information in the newsletter. If you guys getting the
Yep.
newsletter, so he was last week we did the podcast. So again, he's a brand new member, and we just did the podcast. So No, thank you, Jeff. Jeff, for
You
coming up
bet.
and
Thank
bat.
you.
We were originally going to cancel the 10-4, and Jeff was just like, "No, I'll do it." I was like, "Oh, sure." And but again, there was a little bit of a hiccup, but no worries. At the end of the day, we got it done. And
Yeah,
like Rich
that's
said,
me.
with pressure creates diamonds. And today, Jeff, you were a diamond.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So all right, with that said, do we any other questions for Jeff before we do the breakouts or anything like that?
Not a ruby, but a diamond.
A diamond.
Diamond.
I got a quick question for Jeff. The difference between humor and writing, since we do so much on paper or the communications like emails versus the in-person conversations, whether it's Zoom or live or on the phone.
That's a great question. The first thing that I thought of when you asked that question was how many times I've written something in a text with my sense of humor that just didn't get taken the way I meant it. And by the way, I speak fluent sarcasm, so that has been a real issue. But it's tough. More times than not, your humor is accepted in the written form when there's a cartoon or a picture, a meme, whatever with it, so they can visualize that yes, it is supposed to be funny. It is
You need that
difficult to
emoji
do
for the
in
humor impaired.
So-
I'm
so-
hard of humor myself, and so I appreciate
Hard
when
of
people do
humor?
that.
It's interesting because a lot of people, when I was an introvert, I was the guy, I was always the fat kid in school. I built my sense of humor because of a defense mechanism. I realized that if I got them laughing, they were less likely to beat my ass. And that got me to the point where I developed funny, but I was still an introvert. I was the wallflower. Now I'm the guy who walks onto the elevator that already people are on. And instead of facing the door like everybody goes in and does an about face, I look at the people, then I look at the weight capacity of the elevator and I look at them and I look at the weight. How come everybody's looking at me? And just to get the reaction of the people in there. I've gone to a barber and said, I want a little longer in the top, a little thicker in the back, please. Oh, I'm sorry, thicker on the top, longer in the back, please. Just to see what they do. It's getting the reaction. That scratch the record is key, but it's really difficult to do in writing. That's why I was so happy that I got to actually speak and have you guys
Thank you.
painfully listen through my BS.
And any other questions before we go? No more questions. Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, that's enough from Jeff. Holy
All right,
cow.
and welcome back, everybody. I hope you guys like winning on Wednesday. I hope you guys have a lot of fun. So please make sure you put your contact information. It's really important to keep those one-to-ones. And please feel free to reach out to one of each other during the week. Don't wait till the next Wednesday and more importantly, if you can, meet in person, because I have to tell you, it's tremendous to meet in person. I met some of you in person, so it's more impactful to meet in person. Like I met John in person, I met Rich. So Joseph came over my house. Joseph Wesley was over my house. He brought good cake. He brought good chocolate cake, by the way. So
Great experience.
definitely. So that was definitely good. And Jill, thank you so much for coming. I know Jeff said he paid you, right, to come here. So
Yeah.
right. The
Oh,
check
yeah.
is in the mail, so yeah. So
That's
thank you for
right. That's right. It was really nice. It was nice to talk with you that I was in the room with. That was great.
Okay, so what was your experience like? How'd you think of winning on Wednesday? Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's good. It's good because you're seeing everybody here. You're kind of getting a flair for everybody here, and then you get into smaller groups. And like with John, I was in with John twice, so I got to hear a little bit different each time from John. So you really do add in all the pieces and make that collective person, even just from these one-on-one experiences.
Right. And do you think you'll be back?
I just might. And I still have my federal
Oh my God.
I still have my federal job, so I'm trying to
Okay.
get into coaching once I retire. And
Got
I
it.
still,
Got it. Oh, but
I,
yeah.
I would
How
really
about this?
like to.
How about this? Would you recommend to your friends or other?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Okay. You would
Juan
recommend it to
hates
your
putting
friends?
people on the spot, but he'll do it
Right.
over and over
Oh,
and over.
perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Hey, Jim, thank you so much, Jim, for coming. You've been wonderful, Jim, and I know we just caught up. So, and Jim is amazing because he just added me on LinkedIn. I was like, wow, that's wow. I was like, he wowed me today. I was
All
wowed.
right. Good stuff. I just spilled coffee on my computer, so I'm like freaking out.
Quick, get the towel.
Yeah.
Get a towel.
Yeah, I got
Coffee.
it.
Coffee. We know it's vodka. Nice try.
Yep, that's what it is. You know.
Ooh, vitamin V. It's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere.
Is that a Mexican coffee or Irish coffee? I don't know what kind of coffee
Mexican.
that was. Mexican coffee. That's the Kahlua. Kahlua.
I got to go for my next meeting, folks.
All right,
So long.
guys.
Yep, same.
Listen, thank you so
Take
much,
care. Thank
everybody.
you.
Say goodbye. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.